my day job, to an extent, is I'm Chancellor of the Open University. In fact, when I leave here, I'm going straight to an OU meeting. And Balint, you'll be interested to know that the largest area of growth for us, or the fastest area of growth for us, is amongst the older cohort. And we've tried to dig into this a bit, not adequately yet. But one of the things that's happening is that older people are discovering technology through Skype. So we've got a generation of active grandparents in an atomized, globalized world. Grandparents discovering that they can be far more connected to their families through Skype, and then quite naturally through Skype find their way into other areas of technology. So it's a big growth area for us at the OU, and I hope you find that's encouraging. The other thing worth mentioning, if I get the chance, there was a quite wonderful debate, 5-hour debate in the House of Lords last Wednesday on actually higher education funding, but a speech by Baroness Kennedy, Helena Kennedy, with the best description of why education matters and what matters to the individual, why it changes the lives of individuals that I've ever heard in my life. And I reread it afterwards. It's the best. It's also the best I've ever read in my life, and I really would commend it to anyone. You can go online to the UK Hansard and pick it up. It is a remarkable 2 paragraphs by her. Those things that I wish I'd written is when I came away feeling. A couple of things to pick up on from your introduction. Creativity, I think, in a sense, is imagining the way things could be, and therefore it's not restricted to left brain, right brain. It's certainly, I don't want to go rehash the C.P. Snow 2 cultures arguments, because to an extent I think they're largely redundant. And I also don't want to go into the area of, because Tim touched on it, of society being something separated entirely from economic activity, because I don't certainly think Josiah Wedgwood and the Lunar Men would have recognised life that way. What we're actually dealing with at the moment, and the reason we're forced into having discussions about differentiation, is the abuse of economic activity, or the abuse of capitalism, not the use of capitalism. And I think that's a huge issue, and one that's in danger of trapping us into going up an alleyway which we will all regret. I mean, in the end, the structured instruments that brought about the collapse of the financial world were, you could describe them as a creative activity. I don't think it done in any respect much good, but they were unquestionably creative. You can't take that away from them. I prepared, because I was asked to, 10 minutes, and I'm going to try and truncate it, because I don't want to... Ken Robinson has described the issues around creativity far better than I ever will be able to, so I'm going to focus on a few things. And if you don't mind, I'll read, because I spent the weekend doing it, and I want to justify my weekend. I've come to the conclusion that if we're truly prepared to take on the immense challenges of the 21st century, we've no choice but to embrace the equally immense power of the most recent digital technologies to nurture creativity right across the curriculum, and as it happens, most notably in the STEM subjects. And to do so in a way that makes our present rate of adaptation, look exactly what it is, which is hesitant and, in fact, particularly inadequate. Let's face it, in many respects, life beyond the school gates and the walls of our colleges and universities has been quite literally transformed in the past 20 years or so. Digital technology, whether it's mobiles, the internet or video games, has fundamentally reshaped the way in which young people connect with and make sense with the world around them. And rightly or wrongly, those same young people expect an entirely new form of relationship with that world, one that doesn't simply rely on accessing information, but on creating new knowledge, new products, and even in some cases, new resources. Learning is no longer something that needs to happen within particular hours, in a particular place, or with a particular group of people. The immense power of the World Wide Web offers a fantastic knowledge resource that's just a click away, in schools, colleges, homes, and indeed on the move, to the extent that anyone with an internet connection has the power to access an extraordinary treasure trove of knowledge within quite literally seconds, which I think supports Balint's argument of the sheer importance of connectivity. As the very proud owner, as you'll see here, of an Apple iPad, which has quickly established itself as one of the most valuable tools in my professional armoury, I'm keenly aware that the world's digital library is now always open, wherever we may be. Yet it's equally true that the existence of this extraordinary cornucopia of knowledge makes the need for teachers and mentors, in essence, trusted learning guides, more crucial than it's ever been. Young people in particular may be very creative and smart about using the technology. I could do smarter than many of us, I suspect, but there remains a considerable challenge around helping them to sort the wheat from the chaff, the good from the bad, the valuable from the useless. Helping them to understand the ways in which digital images can distort at the same time as appearing to shape the world around them. And as I suggested earlier, the crucial factor in creating this responsible learning environment is a successful and confident educational system, comprising outstandingly creative teachers, and a world-class infrastructure. This new infrastructure and the ICT which sits at the heart of it needs to reflect the realities and, even more importantly, the opportunities that will be presented by a fully digital world. Now, hold that thought for a moment, if you will, and then consider the crisis that clearly exists, certainly in the UK, in the so-called STEM subjects, and which has led to our suffering a very serious undersupply of engineering graduates, far too few chemistry graduates, and too few physics graduates. You quickly develop the picture of a future economy which, if these trends are not corrected, is in deep trouble. And if you add to that the generally accepted premise that successful educational outputs will become the key differentiator between the ambitious and successful nations and societies of the 21st century and those that find themselves left behind, then all of a sudden you begin to have the basis of what I believe to be a very powerful argument. In simple terms, it goes something like this. High quality, subject-specific, continuous professional development, married to better or far more creative technology-enabled STEM teaching, must surely lead to more qualified graduates in our most badly needed professions. We're in need of a whole new generation of technology which, if well used and combined with imaginative software, could help deliver a generation of accomplished and highly creative teachers who have the skills to vividly, and that word vividly is terribly important in this context, to vividly bring these difficult subjects to life. This will encourage the development of a genuinely creative curriculum in ways that were, I think, unimaginable 20 years ago. If successful, that in turn could help deliver the creativity and innovation which are increasingly the engines of economic growth. That's why I'm so personally committed to everything that Tony Can and Promethean are doing. With all that in mind, let me finish by setting out what I see as the crucial lessons we ought to have absorbed during the past 20 to 30 years, certainly if we're to think our way through to the sort of society that we want to be in an ever more difficult world. Firstly, like it or not, getting our education systems right is not just one among a number of social and political priorities that we have to address. Education is far closer to being the whole ball of wax. I've spent some time studying what's known as triage theory. Triage theory is very, very interesting indeed. It is the means by which doctors, particularly the higher levels of doctoring, are encouraged to make judgments about patients under very, very difficult circumstances who are worth saving and those who are not. And the fact that actually you could spend an enormous amount of time saving the life of one person, but the price you might pay for it is 3 other people dying in the meantime. To me, if you think through triage theory, and you think through the consequences of economic decisions that are now having to be made all over the world, education has to be the one major investment. Education can pay for our pensions. Education might give us a National Health Service in the UK. Education might develop the type of economy we want. The notion that a health service or pensions can pay for themselves is a nonsense. So in fact, the sooner that politicians get their brains around the notion that the one fundamental investment they have to continue to make is education, then the safer I think the world will be. Secondly, at risk of repeating myself, no education system could ever be better than the teachers it employs and the constantly improving standards that it demands of them. That notion of demanding standards of teachers is in itself full of risk. Thirdly, teacher training in a digital age has to be viewed as an entirely non-negotiable and continuing process, because developing the creativity of teachers is the only real way to ensure that we're fully equipped to develop the creativity of their students. The commitment of governments, businesses and individual head teachers to the best possible quality of teacher training, along with regular, preferably annual, time out for professional development, must become absolute. Fourthly, there needs to be an undisputed national and global acceptance of the importance of the education of women. I discovered this during the 7 years that I had the privilege of being president of UNICEF in the UK. There is no alternative in this respect. Educated women are the fulcrum around which can be built educated and healthy families, and those families will invariably be smaller and rather better cared for. Now, there's no magic to any of this. Finally, though I promised you I could go on, young people learn best and teachers teach best in environments in which creativity is nurtured and respected, environments which reflect the very best of what they say and admire in the world around them. Thanks very much for listening to me, and I'm sorry I rattled that off at breakneck speed. Thank you.